extended taking.
Good influence in our house, it kicks in.
Yeah. And I love that you also, it's good, I mean, I know you had told us before, but I mean, it's nice to know that Ms. Galvin did have Harvey as a testing site for the ACT. That's nice stuff to be able to have, still be able to have the opportunity to take it here. So.
Yep, and being a testing site, we get a discounted rate on offering for the kids, and she's got some ideas if there's any students that can't afford to take it that want to, we've got some ideas to help them out. So she's very proactive in a lot of stuff for her kids.
And it was great for both schools to see sure that you guys were able to get the CPI training done, because I know that was needed. So.
Yep.
Okay, anything else with Mr. Haas?
Too long ago, I don't remember.
You're coming at it.
No, I don't. I found something for you.
I need to make a motion to approve.
Huh?
Oh.
You have no motion to approve this report?
I'll make a motion to approve the delegate report.
Second. All those in favor of accepting Kelly's report, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Did we do that?
You just remind me,
Did you
let's
do
go
this?
back and, is there a motion to accept the superintendent?
We didn't do that, did we?
No.
I'll move to accept that.
Okay, second?
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Mr. Prom couldn't be here tonight. He told me why.
District tournament, he's busting.
Yeah, so I gave him a bad time anyway. He's missed 2 in a row. So, and he's got his thing on here. Does anybody have any questions they want directed back to Mr. Prom?
All I have was how are esports doing?
Esports, well, I can tell you that she was in touch with me today, and she's planning for state. And she made sure I had the right rooms, and I'm getting it on the calendar for her. So I know that there's planning to send kids to state, and I was working with her today on that.
Any idea on me?
She needed 5 hotel rooms,
Well, okay.
so I
All right.
I got it at a government rate, so I was working on that.
All right.
Hard to get that these days, but you can get them if you know the right buttons to push.
Okay. Anything else from Mr. Prom? Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, probably move second. Discussion. All those in favor of accepting Mr. Prom's report as you got, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we have the elementary. She did her video.
Couldn't get it this time either. I tried both of
Oh,
her.
I got it first time.
Oh, I couldn't. And she sent 2 links, and I still couldn't. I couldn't get the code. And last time I could, and you couldn't. So I don't know.
Okay, any discussion? On her report?
No,
Okay.
it was good.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, second?
Elementary report.
Accept,
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. We will now go to item number 8, discussion on possible action on the grievance complaint. So how do we handle this?
I move to refer to the district attorney how we should handle it.
Do you want me to jump in here?
Yes.
Okay. So normally with grievances or complaints when they come to the board level, I suggest that the HEA discuss the grievance to the board, and then the superintendent discuss his last response, and then the board has questions, and then you do that for the first grievance and then the second grievance, and then we go into executive session, so you can hear my advice, and then you go out of executive session, and the board has their discussion and makes a decision on the 2 grievances. is
So
what I
we
recommend.
handle each of them separately? Each grievance separate?
Right, so that's how I would do it. Since they relate, I would do the one with the 3 teachers first.
Okay.
And then have the HEA explain that grievance and their position and what they're requesting. And then the superintendent explain his last response to them. And then the board asks questions on that one. And then that same 3-step process for the other grievance, and then executive session. And then a decision on both of them.
That sounds like a great procedure.
Okay, so the HEA, you ready?
I don't know if the HEA was prepared for that.
I didn't know the procedure.
School Board. Thank you for taking the time to hear our grievance regarding overload compensation. While the intent of a grievance process is to reach a resolution without further escalation, we find ourselves addressing the board today due to the lack of resolution. We are formally requesting overload compensation retroactive to September 9th, 2024 through the end of the school year. Specifically, we are requesting $2,500 per semester per teacher, totaling $5,000 for the 2024-2025 school year. As you are aware, concerns were raised by students, parents, and staff regarding the quality of instruction in the 4th grade. Following administrative evaluations and discussions, it was determined that adjustments were necessary to better support student learning. Consequently, 4th and 5th grade teachers were asked to modify their schedules to accommodate these needs. Mrs. Heil assumed responsibility for teaching all language arts and social studies to 27 4th grade students in the mornings, effectively serving as the lead teacher. In the afternoons, she continued her counseling duties. Mrs. Kakowski took on the role of lead teacher for 31 5th grade students in social studies and then transitioned to teaching math and science health to 27 4th grade students in the afternoons. Mrs. Heisler served as the lead teacher for 31 5th grade students in the afternoons. In addition to fulfilling our standard classroom responsibilities, we willingly took on these additional instructional duties because we believed it was in the best interest of our students. We were assured that we would be compensated accordingly for these expanded roles. In response to our grievance, Dr. Lukens stated, "Had we not secured this grant or alternative funding, I would have had to deny your grievance." Despite initial assurances, communication from administration regarding compensation was inconsistent and unclear. Our superintendent has not formally acknowledged the significant additional workload that these teachers have undertaken and continue to manage. This is the breakdown of time commitment and compensation. There are 175 student contact days in the school year, with adjustments bringing the total lead teacher days to 163 beginning September 9. Brooke Heil, 3.5 hours per day. Michelle Kakowski, 2.25 hours per day. Caitlin Heisler, 1.75 hours per day. Total, 7.5 hours per day, divided by 3 teachers is approximately 2.5 hours per day. 163 days times 2.5 hours per day equals 407.5 total additional hours. Compensation based on the original contract presented to the board was $3,333.33 divided by 407.5, which comes to about $18.18 per hour. The proposed compensation is $3,700 divided by 407.5, which comes to about $9.08 per hour. The requested compensation is $5,000 divided by 407.5, which comes to about $12.27 per hour. This rate is significantly lower than the hourly wage of newly hired ancillary staff and does not account for additional hours spent outside of instructional time on lesson planning, grading, and parent communication. For further context, coaching stipends within the district demonstrate a disparity in compensation. Head coach, $5,000. First and second assistant coaches, $3,560. Combined 7th and 8th grade coach, $3,400. It is concerning that educators fulfilling a critical instructional role for nearly an entire academic year are being offered less compensation than coaches for a single season. We appreciate your time and consideration. We are available to answer any questions you have.
Okay, then Dr. Lukens goes.
Okay, so overload, obviously they were doing great work. I did communicate to them that I had applied for $3,700 stipends and grievance through the Brigham Foundation. The way I think about money is you've got all the water is the money, and then you got a dam, and the dam is the law. And the negotiated agreement's a nice big hole in that dam where the water can flow out. but you got little loopholes, and the trick is finding the loopholes so that the water can flow to the staff when maybe the negotiated agreement doesn't necessarily have a provision for it. So with the tie and the bonuses for stipends, I worked on trying to get it called a stipend. If I could call it a stipend, by law I can't call it a stipend. It's still a bonus because there's not. I mean, the hole in the. I mean, there's a single hole there in the law, and how that looks. Just changing the name on it doesn't necessarily, in my estimation, allow for payment to change. So then I got the grant to come forward, which was then legal, be like ESSER funds. We gave ESSER bonuses, and the ESSER funds came forward, but they didn't fully fund the $3,700. They granted $10,000. So then I funded the full amount that we got from the grant forward to them, and I was going to have you guys approve contracts to pay them $3,300 each. Where did I get the $3,700? The stipend, the educational stipend that you provided for EL director had been $3,700. So I called that the educational precedent. It was not part of the extracurricular contract, but it was part of the agreements. So that was the precedent I used to not change the precedent. Bergman Foundation didn't fund the full $3,700, so that was the reason for offering them not $5,000 but $3,300 each, because that was the money that I had available.
Okay, now we can ask questions. Is that what any of the board members ask questions to either party?
I don't have questions, I have comments.
Not to come. Okay, so there are no questions. So then we'll go to grievance 2. Okay, we'll go to grievance 2. And so HEA, you can start with grievance 2.
At the start of the 2024-2025 school year, Mrs. Kakowski was assigned as one of the 2 5th grade teachers. Initially, she received her scheduled preparation time, including music, gym, art, and library. However, on September 9, 2024, her schedule was adjusted, resulting in the loss of 80 minutes of prep time per week due to additional teaching responsibilities for both 4th and 5th grades. In his response to this grievance, Dr. Lukens acknowledged this loss, stating the new schedule retains gym/music from 10:30 to 11:10 daily, but eliminates art/library on those 2 days, leading to the loss of prep time. He then referenced the negotiated agreement language regarding overload compensation. To clarify, Mrs. Kakowski is not seeking overload compensation, but rather appropriate compensation for the loss of 80 minutes of prep time each week. Dr. Lukens also cited the negotiated agreement's provision for substitute pay, which states elementary teachers will be paid $20 per clock hour. While Mrs. Kakowski is not serving as a substitute, she is managing 2 sections of 4th grade simultaneously, requiring additional planning, grading, and parent communication outside of her contracted hours to support her 58 students across both grade levels. Furthermore, Dr. Lukens referenced language from Mrs. Kakowski's teaching contract stating, the above-named teacher agrees to faithfully perform such services as may be reasonably assigned by the school board or its designated representatives. However, when the school year began, Mrs. Kakowski was assigned as one of 2 5th grade teachers and received the same amount of prep time as her colleagues. Due to numerous student and parent complaints and staff concerns regarding the existing 4th grade structure, the schedule was rearranged to make Mrs. Kukowski the lead 4th grade teacher, resulting in the loss of 80 minutes of prep time each week, prep time that her colleagues continue to receive. Dr. Lukens also cited policy DHBC, instructional staff extra duty, though he did not reference a specific section. If referring to paragraph 1, we know that Mrs. Kukowski is providing more than just disciplinary and supervisory duties. Paragraph 2, missing 80 minutes of prep time each week is far from a minor demand, given that she is planning for and teaching 58 students. Paragraph 3, we agree that her additional responsibilities place a significant demand on her time and should be compensated accordingly. Additionally, Dr. Lukens stated that he consulted the district's attorney, who confirmed that the negotiated agreement does not explicitly provide for compensation in this case. The attorney further advised conducting a thorough analysis of prep times among Harvey teachers and similar districts before considering compensation. We respectfully ask the board, why is a comparison with other districts necessary to address a known loss of prep time for a teacher in our district? If it is acknowledged that Mrs. Kukowski is missing 80 minutes of prep time each week, why is she not being compensated? Who will conduct this comparative analysis? How long will it take? And why hasn't it been done? In his closing statement, Dr. Lukens wrote, the request for extra pay due to the schedule change is denied. It needs to be clarified that this is not a request for extra pay. It is a request for compensation for lost prep time that she started the year with but no longer receives, while her colleagues continue to do so. Requested compensation. Mrs. Kukowski is requesting payment for 960 minutes, which is 16 hours, at $37.25 per hour, which is the after-school program rate, totaling $596 before taxes. This request covers the period from September 9th through December, less days she was absent. Since her schedule has remained unchanged into the new year, she will also seek compensation for lost prep time from January through May, adjusting for any absences. Alternatively, if this is considered substitute coverage, the calculation is 960 minutes at $20 per hour times 2 sections of students, which comes to $640. It is important to note that when Mrs. Kukowski loses her prep time, she is responsible for teaching both sections of 4th grade simultaneously. Therefore, she is requesting compensation at a rate of $37.25 or $40 per hour, recognizing the additional instructional load. The standard substitute pay per the negotiated agreement applies when covering one section of a class, which does not reflect the increased responsibility in this case. We appreciate your time and will answer any questions.
Yeah, this was, I mean, obviously the dam analogy doesn't work for this one because this isn't necessarily money. This is a time. So the currency here is time. So just simplifying down my response, you start trying to take the time and you start to put it in different buckets and see how the buckets fit. I just couldn't make this fit into a bucket that was a major demand, which is in DHBC, a major demand. And so when I'm bringing it forward, that was the reason for denial, because of the, now, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about 2 grievances at once, but, you know, I have since the beginning of the year been trying to pursue extra funding for lead teachers, and that, after that did come through, but I couldn't make the time fit into the right bucket, but so I brought it to you guys.
Okay, any members have questions on this grievance? Any board members have questions on this grievance? Okay, I think executive session, correct?
You need to make a motion.
Yep, yep, yep.
Thanks, Spencer.
Who's gonna do it again?
I move that we go into executive session pursuant to North Dakota Century Code, Chapter 44-04-1921, for attorney consultation to receive the school district attorney's advice and guidance on legal risks, strengths, and weaknesses in an action
Which held in public.
which held in public would have adverse fiscal effect on the school district.
Well done. Second. Okay, motion passes. We will now go into executive session. So, we'll just all use that.
Yeah.